All right, Jim. Next question comes from Lee and Robin, who write in and say that they've been wondering how Disney World managers calculate how much revenue a ride or an attraction is earned based on how many people have gone on it. And they said that this question comes because they read an older article on your site on jimhillmedia.com about discussing about the poor performance of Stitch's Great Escape. So how does Disney figure out, in the era where you don't have A, B, C, D, E tickets anymore, how do you calculate how much an attraction is worth to visitors?
This is going to be sound really weird, particularly given what's going on right now. But this is one of the lesser known components of magic bands. That the notion that I mean, face it, Disney hasn't been able to track, for example, Testa, who loves Small World and rides it 35 times a day. That they don't know that. You go into the park, they can't keep track of who you are and what you do. But in the era of the Magic Band, where you suddenly know guest pen, I mean, in fact, this sort of information gathering, that again, it's a quiet, tacit aspect of the bands. They're they're anticipating that in 4 and 5 years, once again, this becomes something that people really embrace in a big way, and just put on and are at the parks and don't even think about it. At the end of the year, you can literally sit there and go, okay, these people who flew in from this part of the country, came to the kingdom 2.5 times during their trip, and they rode the mansion twice, or they never went on uh, Dumbo, or that sort of thing. You can actually start making real decisions based on the actual popularity, not just the turnstile. Because face it, the turnstile lies. In fact, I've spoken with a number of cast members who will flat out tell you that during times when the company was tracking, you know, uh, how many people were going through the turnstiles, they'd actually spin an empty turnstile, sometimes for 20 minutes just to
You know,
artificially inflate numbers. I mean,
it's a good workout. You're on your feet all day. Your upper body gets no cardiovascular exercise. Spin the
yeah,
turnstile.
but again, I mean, I remember I went to dinner once with Tony Baxter, and he just moaned about the fact that he missed the ticket books for this exact reason we're talking about. That you could, that the fact that each of those tickets had a perceived value, had a perceived, that a price point. And so at the end of the day, you could say, okay, these many people came through and they spent this much money, so we can then justify the amount of money we're spending for maintenance or plussing. I
Sure.
mean, right now, um, face it, if you took a look at the attention, the money that was spent on both Mansion and Pirates of the Caribbean, you'd have to assume, just over the past 10 years, it's attendance had to be tanking. That there was no possible way to justify the amount of plussing and changes and improvements to this attraction. When you think about attractions that haven't had any TLC in decades, you know,
Yeah, you would think that there was either going gangbusters or no one was going in, one or the other, right? Because if it's going
yeah,
gangbusters, then you're like, well, we can justify the expense because look how many people see it, and we want to make
yeah,
sure we have good show, Or
mhm,
conversely, it could be like, well, nobody's coming here anymore, so we have to plus it up. So
yeah.
yeah,
And let's be honest here. Very last thing that was spent on Mansion, the scene one, which in fact, it's just been kind of sad to watch how quickly Disney is backing away from the whole idea of the scene one right now.
yeah, that's really interesting, isn't it? They've and what was well, I heard they're gonna do something similar for Jack Sparrow over at the studios, where they're gonna go to a queueless queue for that. But I mean, I think there's no other attraction that's really got a queue enhancement, right? They
Yeah,
totally backed away from Rock and Roller Coaster.
yeah, and think about it. How long, you pulled down the bathrooms next to Peter Pan, and you've got, Tangled has been up and running almost free. The Tangled
Oh,
toilets,
that's right. Yeah.
and it's just sort of like, okay, so when are you expanding out and doing your Wonder Queue? It's like, I don't know. When is Hell scheduled to freeze over?
Let's
So,
see. Yeah. Well, so what are they doing there? They're not doing the queue anymore.
nothing. In fact, if anything, um, been some discussions about creating a Peter Pan photo spot. The notion of you could go,
Ooh. Yeah, I don't know
you
if they're
know,
gonna. Okay, but did you? Okay, so speaking of that area, did you know that they're doing a Fast Pass Plus return window at It's a Small World? You remember where the entrance used to be, right?
yep,
Right now, directly now between the Tangled bathrooms and Peter Pan, that's now the Fast Pass return line for It's a Small World. So you think about that,
mm,
they've got they really, if they did a Peter Pan meet and greet there, they'd have the Tangled bathrooms, the Peter Pan meet and greet, the sitting area, which was supposed to be a greeting area for Tangled, and
mm.
the Fast Pass return, all in the same spot. I mean, that's just a nightmare. That's
It,
just bringing back the
it,
stroller convention.
well, but see, but this is the thing. You move that chess piece. You move the bathrooms next to Peter Pan because you were going to put your scene one in,
Right.
and now now to be fair, what I've heard is basically that a lot of the scene ones were put on hold, mostly because, again, they were just having so much trouble with the launch of Magic Band's My Disney Express, that sort of, or My Disney Experience. And that if, when these are finally up and running in the way that they want, they may revisit this idea. But until then, this will basically be, a missing tooth in the smile. So,
Well, because the thing about scene ones too is that weren't they supposed to contribute to the personalization that you would start seeing some you wouldn't get the full personalization experience. Hi Jim, welcome from
mm,
Tacoma.
yep.
How's your pet Rusty doing? But you
Mm,
would you would start to see like certain elements of it there to give you the hint of what was to come in the ride. So,
yeah. Mm,
interesting.
and it's weird. I can't help but think because they're working on the Shanghai version of Peter Pan now, which is going to be 4 times the size of the one for Walt Disney World. It'll be
Wow.
six passenger galleons. But at the same time, this is, you know, the whole notion of you have to deal with the fact that it's a Chinese family. And, 2 parents, 2 sets of grandparents, and a child. So, you were
Oh, I was
constantly
trying to.
going to have to be busting up the family to get them on this ride. Um,
Oh, and now you're
and
not with the six. I got it. Okay.
yeah, and when you quadruple the size of your show building, I mean, you're still basically got the same scenes. You now can do the equivalent of it. You can do photo capture. You can seriously up the capacity of this attraction just because you have that much room for track.
Right, right, right.
But
Huh.
yeah, it's just stateside. It's still backed up to that slot where this is as far as it can go. I mean, it's not like you can add any capacity to Peter Pan. It just is where it is, and you.
You can make the boats go by way faster on the overthink. The point where they actually corner, like up like this, like ah.
There you go. So,
That's awesome. Very
hmm.
cool. Good question.